Hey, this is Justin from Decelium, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what I like to call saving the world with web hosting. And that sounds like a ridiculous sentence, but it's really not if you think about it. If you think about some of the greatest challenges we face as like a human family, one of them is the climate change crisis, and the other is centralized control over monetary resources, right? And when you have we can tackle each of those separately, but the first one's a bit easier to get at. And I think that, when we think about the centralized storage of websites and applications, so we're talking about Instagram, we're talking about Facebook, we're talking about, GoDaddy, we're talking about Media Temple, we're talking about Amazon.com, we're talking about very large websites with very large amounts of data. When we have a Web 2 or a centralized outlook towards these providers, what we're saying is that we expect always one company to run a mega corporation on behalf of the billions of citizens, right? We expect there to be one Amazon.com with, and behind the Amazon.com, we expect there to be some army of databases and some army of professionals keeping the system, up to date, upgraded for the benefit of all the consumers. But this is a model that doesn't have to exist. It is possible today to have something like an Amazon.com and to behind the scenes actually run a decentralized federation of servers that fulfill and both accept payments and organize shipments. And this sort of idea of decentralizing the data storage behind the scenes hasn't existed before. We can consider for a moment what is the impact that an Amazon.com, for example, has on the world when it runs as a centralized company. Well, there are two major ones that I can think of right off the bat. One is that all the monies and transactions and decisions that coordinate both the exchange of goods and services and also the storage of value run through one organization. So that makes Amazon.com and the executives and certain individuals extremely wealthy, right? This is a very centralized top-down model. It means that all the data and the records about people's behaviors are stored centrally and they're not publicly auditable. And lastly, and kind of most importantly, it means all the computers running the network and all the electricity flowing, all that activity is centered around certain data centers that are again under centralized control. This is kind of, even just thinking about where all the computers are running, this alone, you think about 80,000 computers running Amazon.com, you think, wow, that's a lot of computers. What happens if those 80,000 computers or all those greenhouse gas emissions were instead being run on your laptop and my laptop? What happens if the mere fact that I opened my phone and went shopping meant that I also ran a piece of Amazon.com? What happened if, someone 3 blocks down the road, when I said I want to purchase a box, what if their computer was the computer that downloaded or processed that transaction and sent a note or a text message to the logistics provider who was going to handle the box? What happened if all that work wasn't actually happening in a centralized capacity? Well, first of all, right out of the gate, there'd be 80,000 less computers running in the world at virtually no cost. We have 8.8 billion people in the world and even more cell phones and laptops. So we know that we have the raw computer capacity to absorb the Amazon.coms of the world and decentralize them. We have the technological basis via, the Ethereum network and the Decelium network to actually host these websites and exchange these messages. So right away we realized, just from a greenhouse gas perspective, that something like an Amazon.com today in 2022 is an optional experience that that has been bridged in via a legacy paradigm. But if we invented the same sort of service network today, it might not be invented the same way. And lastly, start to think about the resource accumulation and the transaction fees. Now, when you order a box on Amazon.com, or you order some beauty supplies, or you order some supplements, the transaction fees go straight to the organization, the Amazon organization. But you can imagine a world where if you place that same order on the network, that different people get a cut, and that those people are decentralized. So you can imagine that if you ran a special app on your phone, say the logistics matchmaking app on your phone, that you yourself would get the 10 cents of the delivery fee for matching that organization. So instead of Amazon.com running the organized matching algorithm, you run the organized matching algorithm on your phone. And you could imagine also that the person delivering the package sets their price on a market, and that they get a certain, a few cents or $1 for accepting the delivery. And in that sense, all of a sudden you start cutting out the central authority, the central, in essence, the wasteful extractional piece of the puzzle, which is always trying to grow the margin, becomes more of a community effort and more of a passive application, right? And then obviously there are other concerns, other topics, such as who sets the price and how is that all organized? And that is an interesting sort of subpoint. Lastly, you have this whole subject of data, who stores the data, and who sees all this data about shipments and so on. And this is where you have, your decentralized network of encrypted information, where only the people that are given permission to, say, deliver the package or view the shipment details are given special keys to decrypt or see that information. So all of a sudden you have a network that's more private. And on an individual case, you might say, I am actually interested in browsing some products. So you might authorize an app to inspect your package history. You might give it a temporary key, or you might give it a temporary access to your data. And it might download the list, and maybe it will store a copy. You can't control that. And it'll tell you, hey, I think based on your products, you would like these other products. And then after that, your data is again encrypted, and any new additions you make are invisible. And in that way, individuals are given some semblance of privacy and assurance that, they're not being generally surveilled when they just want to buy some lipstick or vinegar or, any household products from Amazon.com. So this idea of decentralizing the internet can solve a lot of legal and privacy issues, as well as climate change issues, all in one fell swoop. And it's only the sort of archaic view that we have of our past organizational structures that stop us from really considering how to restructure our existing sort of logistic solutions and hosting providers in a situation where we need to come up with solutions today to save the earth. And if we extend that paradigm further, we can see how we can reconstruct and tackle reorganizing other massive companies in our culture.